Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Talk. Well, my guest today was originally from Montreal. She now lives in North Van, and she's an assistant teacher at École André. Is it pronounced Pilat?
André-Piolat.
And she has a show which I know nothing about. Anyway, it's time to meet Christine Marie Blackfeather. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And hello, everyone.
That's really
Uh,
cool.
yeah, so my name is Christine, but my show name is Christine Marie, and the show is called Blackfeather. It's on Facebook. You find me as Christine Marie Blackfeather because I was having a hard time setting up. Actually, it's Christine Marie Blackfeather Shows, I think it is.
Yeah.
I was just having a really hard time setting myself up as a radio show. So
Oh.
that's why the name came out that way. Originally it was Christine Marie Blackfeather, but then I decided that it's misleading. So I
Mhm.
went back and I think I added radio shows or Christine Marie Blackfeather shows to try to differentiate that this is not my name, but it's actually my radio show. Yeah.
Okay, really cool. So when did you start doing that?
I started doing this. Actually, I started to doing the first show with Laurence Gatinel. We started with Excuse My French, and we did that for a year because Laurence is also part of Art Rational
Hmm.
on the Co-op Radio. And because we were very busy, she's working and she's got a show. I'm working full time and I've got the show. I was excited to introduce a pilot show, and the radio station wanted to hear it, so they heard it and they liked it very much, and they launched Black Feather. It was originally Black Feather Everything Tribal, but I just cut out Black Feather to
Okay.
simplify it. And of course, the show's gone through a lot of transitions because society evolves, politics evolve, everything evolves, economy evolves.
Right.
So I decided I'm just going to leave it as Black Feather and just make it an international show.
Mhm.
And I've met some of the most amazing people. I've learned so much from them. So I really have a great time doing the radio show.
Right. What made you decide to do it to begin with?
Well, that's a good question. And I have a story for that.
Okay.
Um, I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people where you get to a certain point of your life where you feel that you've kind of reached the end or the top of all things. And it's a question of finding the next thing coming your way. So I was on holidays visiting my friend in Australia, and she started a podcast, and it got me very fascinated. I was very interested in what she was doing, and it was so different from what she and I have done for work and what is known as a common work that my friends and my family members have known. And I thought, this is really fresh. I like that. And I was sitting by the pool and I was contemplating about, okay, what am I going to do when I move back to Vancouver? I feel like I need a change in my life, work wise, just a change. And this black feather came floating down from the sky, landed on top of the water, and I just heard this name, Black Feather,
Mm.
just creates a show called Black Feather.
I love
And I
it.
was like, okay. So my vacation ended and I came back to Vancouver and I was doing some postings on Facebook and I was very, very strong in my opinions. So I was kind of advocating, I guess, for a number of things. And it was noticed. So I was invited to meet with Steve. I can't remember what the name of the show was because they've closed it, but it was associated with the Vancouver Co-op Radio. It was a TV show,
Okay.
Access TV. I got invited to do a talk on Access TV because he really liked the stuff I was talking about. I was advocating at that point for the forest behind where I live. It's called a riverine forest. It's the last of its kind. And
Mm.
the people have been fighting for a long, long time not to have it cut down. And of course, everybody wants to cut it down and build soccer fields and condos. And the riverine is the last of its kind because I live between the Lynn River and the Seymour River. And before all of this was built initially, there were two other creeks, and all this was kind of a bog area, if you want. All of these converge a little higher up, and all this was when there's too much water, this will kind of keep this from flooding.
Right.
And it's called a riverine forest. So the people came, they diked the area, they changed the rivers, and two of them went underground. And over time, they sold them to become farms. Farms became houses with acreage. Now we have condensed living. So this is what's left, and people are fighting to save it. Of course, people who know the history of this area
Mm.
are getting mature and are passing away. So the new people that are coming in en masse know nothing of this area. They think it's just lumber and it's just forest and it's disposable. So we're trying to keep the information down to down. So I got to advocate for the forest with Steve, and then Laurence was there. So we started talking, and she was from the Vancouver Co-op Radio, and she's French from Paris, and I'm French from Quebec. So we're two different francophones.
Right.
And we thought, oh, this could be really fun. And she says, well, there used to be a show called Excuse My French, and maybe we can revive it. And I said, sure. So we did that for a year, and Blackfeather came along. And yeah, so it took root, and I've been holding space for people to share their stories, their knowledge, their expertise, their experiences, their wisdom, um, also their talents, because it's open to emerging talents.
Right.
So it's been really, really, really wonderful. And I have a little friend that wants to say hello.
Oh, hello. What's your friend's name?
Yeah. This is Drake.
Oh, all right. It was so interesting because yesterday I interviewed somebody that's going to be airing on Wednesday, and her cat kept jumping on her lap during the interview, and I said, "Listen, my show doesn't get edited, so I love all of that stuff because it's just natural, you know. What'll happen when you're talking to somebody, right?"
Yeah.
So I'm just going to mention about when you interview people, like the wonderful thing about it is, like, to me, it's like magic that anybody is willing to share their story or their talent, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. People have so much to share. And to me, I consider that a legacy. I really feel that what people want to gift us is such a huge gift. It's a great act of generous love, because this is something that they have journeyed,
Yes.
and this is something they've done on their own, maybe with some support and some friends. But everybody takes that first step. Everybody takes on a journey, and it's everything that they've processed from their perspective, with their skills, with their abilities. It's a huge, huge gift. And to me, I consider that a legacy. I find there's a lot of things that we can learn and unlearn. And quite frankly, we can't move forward alone. I mean, we can take our own steps, but as a society, as a community, as a country, as a nation, we can't move alone without having a chance to have heard everybody's story.
Right.
Because some people think, well, they've got the pyramid scheme. Well, it doesn't go really around as a wheel. But if we look at the medicine wheel and everybody has its own place, everybody will have a very specific perspective, and it's going to be everybody's truth. At the end of the day, you want to have all the truth in order to have the greater truth. And then decisions can be made more balanced for the good of all people, right? So my aim and my goal is to just have all these amazing people share, so that we can have perspective, we can be inspired. Sometimes we need to be triggered
Yeah.
because we're stuck, and this person's going to bring us something, whether it's their song or poem or art or their story or just meeting with them. There's always something as a gift when someone crosses our path.
Absolutely. One of the other
And
things that I love is I end up making so many friends doing my show. You know, some I've never met in person, but like they'll come back on the show. Like my friend, musician in New Zealand, he's been on the show about 5 times, and we feel like we're really good friends, you know?
yeah,
But
yeah, that's the advantage is I'm very blessed that some of the people have stayed as friends.
yeah,
Some is just, it's a professional thing, but you do end up building some connection and some relations with some people, and I find that very, very special. I find it very rewarding.
yes,
I like that very much. And um I like to have them come back on my show as well, particularly the emerging talents, because nowadays being a musician or a talent is less than easy
mm,
to be out there. There's a lot of competition, especially with people having hands-on technology. A lot of people all of a sudden have become musicians.
Right.
And so especially local people, there's so much amazing talent. It's I have a huge file of talents I've been accumulating, and
Mhm.
I'll play their songs. I'll try to invite them if they have a new album. It's like, hey, you got an album? Come back. Let's talk about this and what's
Right.
the essence of this. And there's this huge benefit of them being validated and being heard. And of course, we always hope that one day those cells are going to be wide open and the wind's going to catch them and they're going to go. And I'm starting to see some of them having some growing success. They're out there. They're very invested in traveling and presenting themselves. And so you need a lot of luck, but you also
Yeah.
need exposure. So
Def-
those are the two main things. Of course, the talent is important. If you know, if you're talented and you're engaging and you're out there putting yourself out there, and some key people catch it, well, they can help you really move forward. So I like to see that. Yeah.
Good. Just switching the topic a little bit. When did you move from Montreal?
That's a good question. I moved twice. First, I moved to Vancouver in let's say 1996, 7, because it was just as New Year was pulling in.
Mm.
I came back from Australia to Montreal just in time for the referendum.
Ah, okay.
And there was no work to be found because when I left, I took a 13-month visa. I went to work overseas in Australia. And at the time, we were in a recession. And when I came back, it was called a depression at that point, and there was no work. So I sent my resume to Vancouver and I got to move here the first time. So I found a place to stay with some roommates, took an office job. And then this is where I met the father of my children.
Mhm.
So we left Vancouver, we went to Haida Gwaii where we got married, and then we moved to Alberta where my eldest was born in Saskatchewan. And then I came back here, I think 1999,
All right.
because my youngest was born here,
Right.
January 2000. So, and since then I've been on my own raising my sons.
Mhm.
So it's 24 years, 25 years since I'm back.
Right. Well, what
Yeah.
area of Montreal did you grow up in?
I grew up in the West Island,
Me
but
too.
my mom is
Me too.
from Rosemère. My grandmother's from Saint-Eustache.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because she used to have a neighbor called Madame Guitare. So when
Oh,
I saw your name, Suzanne Guitare, I said, oh, I wonder if there's a relation with Madame Guitare from Saint-Eustache.
I don't think so. Not that I know of.
So I pretty much grew up in Pierrefonds. We
Yeah.
bounced around,
Mhm.
but Pierrefonds was the main. Where are you from?
We moved from New Brunswick to Ville Saint Laurent, but I did the same thing. I lived in Pierrefonds, Dorval, Lachine, all those
Yeah,
places, you know. So now let's get into the teaching assistant.
right.
So how long you been doing that?
So that's a very good question. It's quite a few years, to be honest with you. I'm not very good with dates.
Yeah.
I started working in the schools. Oh my gosh, quite some years ago. I left the school for a bit. I went to do some construction. I worked in retail for a number of years. And I was also a manager. And
Right.
then I came back, and I think it's been 8 years since I came back as a TA.
Yeah.
And I was also doing first for Indigenous studies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was sharing some of the Indigenous culture teachings I was permitted to share at the
Ah,
school. So it's
okay.
called Intervention Jeunesse
Okay.
Autochtone. At first, it was called something else. It's funny how politics keep changing names of everything all the time.
Oh,
Every year, every 2 years is an upgrade.
keeps
So
somebody busy.
yeah, so I've been a TA and I did that, and then I let go of the Indigenous studies. I'm now a TA and receptionist slash infirmary.
Oh, okay. Right. Have you always taught French?
Yes, my mom is French Canadian from Montreal, and my father's from Switzerland. So our house was always bilingual.
Mhm.
In fact, I was born here, so my sister 11 months later, then the family moved to Switzerland. My brother was born in Switzerland.
Oh,
And then we left Switzerland for me to start grade 1 in Montreal. So at that point, I was more Swiss German.
Yeah.
So I had to focus on French, and we spoke English at home. And then we lost a German and a Swisserdeutsch because my mom would speak French to us and my dad spoke in English with
Right.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because a lot of it, well, I've never lived in Switzerland, but my father was French, but we were brought up English because my mother was English, you know?
Right.
And that's what you tend to do. You tend to speak your mother's language, I think.
Yeah, it's very common. I see that at the school too.
Yeah.
A lot of the families are multicultural, so some kids will speak 3, 4 languages.
Yeah, wow.
So it's very often that you see one parent speak a language, the other parent speak another language.
Mm-hmm.
And at home, well, when they have the grandparents and everything, well, they switch to the native language, like
Right.
from whichever country they're from, and whatever English or no. So there's different kinds of French too, and
Yeah.
because I understand there's basically 13 different French Canadian languages.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And
That's
if you
true.
go to Paris, they also, sorry, if you go to France, Paris has a language. If you leave Paris, the same thing. It kind of breaks down. And
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing as Switzerland. Everybody speaks German, but everybody has his own Swisserdeutsch. And one canton cannot speak the same Swisserdeutsch as the other canton. So if you have someone from Quebec that goes to Acadie,
Yeah. Yeah.
they can kind of figure some things out, but they have to resort to the basic French, the international French everyone speaks, in order to kind of catch up with what they're saying. But the patois from the West Island will not be the same patois as the one from Quebec City or different areas of New Brunswick or Nova Scotia or Prince Edward Island, or even as we go south, like Louisiana.
Right.
There's a strong. So it's interesting to see how the language has traveled with the people
Mm.
and has adapted. And the other way around too, when I took the Cree classes, it was interesting to see how some of the French was found in the Cree language, how that got adopted.
Okay.
And I found out the Mohawk had a little bit more of an English influence here and there, you know. So
Yeah.
they still had their root language, but there were some words that you can tell
To get
were
incorporated.
from the settlers that came in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see how genetics and language travel
Mm.
and how they settle, and that no matter what people say, you go, I just know that somewhere there's some French in your history because it's in your language and
Yeah.
it's present, right?
Yeah.
So I love to follow the trail of language and DNA. It tells a story that cannot be untold to me.
Right.
Mhm.
I remember from, even though like we spoke some French in New Brunswick, but learned more when we were in Montreal. So when we first moved to Montreal, we couldn't understand the French people at the beginning, like because we said things like je scalp, what's it, je scalpe or l'école de mon chemin was one from New
Mhm.
Brunswick. And then you don't hear that anywhere else, at least I didn't. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, at the school I have fun. Some of the kids are around and say, "Hey, I'm going to teach you something Québécois today," and they just look at me, and I say in French and I say in Québécois, and they think it's funny.
Yeah, well, it
Yeah,
is. It's
it's
amusing,
it,
when you see when you
it's
think
kind
about
of a mix of English and French, but there's kind of something else. It's kind of the words got chopped and they got glued together. It's
it.
a shortcut of a lot of words, and then they throw in a few other things and mash it up.
Mm.
So if you don't speak the patois, whoa, it's really hard to follow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, our words are not entirely complete. No.
Well, again, because there's such a mixture, right, of different languages coming in, for English, for instance, right, with the Latin influence and whatever, Old
Mhm.
English, all these words with letters in them that you don't pronounce. I figure somebody should revamp the language.
Well, I find that work if I'm in a rush to transmit information to another coworkers Québécois, I'll skip down Québécois because it's just a straight bullet to the point. It's like not like dun 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 dun. It's not like a poetry or a song. It's just like it's like an arrow. Let's get this done.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things. I'm not sure what Quebec is like, but back in my days, we're a very hard worker,
Mm.
loyal people and very efficient at things, and that got included in the language.
Yeah.
So I know that when we were doing assignments, they kept giving me my assignments and say, please do that in French, not Quebecois. We want to have full words, full sentences. And so they wanted me to make it very eloquent.
Right.
And it's the language, the French language is absolutely beautiful and poetic. I'm just thinking though, sometimes we don't have time for poetry. It's just
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
a good
let's
point.
get this through and let's just get her done. So I feel very privileged to be able to switch from one to the other. Because when it's time to, let's say, speak to a parent or do a presentation in front of the students or the staff,
Mhm.
it's great to be able to fall in that part of the French and just have something a little bit more eloquent. I try not to make it too wordly because I don't want to become boring.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of a customer service phone call I had with TELUS because my internet was glitching something fierce. And this lady, she was just putting a whole bunch of words. And I told the lady, I said, can we just simplify and dumb things down a little? I'm at work and there's a lot of words here. And those words were not really doing anything. They were just embellishing the sentence. And I'm like, dude, let me make it simple. Internet not working. Me paid bills. You fix internet. Okay. So I find that the language is very adaptable because even in English, I mean, it's just easier to be quite direct,
Yeah.
or you can take your time and you can kind of set things up or stage things up with the words and be eloquent with your words.
Right.
And some people are very direct and fast and they prefer that. And then some people, they need something a little bit more eloquent because they need a little bit more time to transition. So when you're doing a classroom, it's very interesting because you've got the kids who've got everything figured out in under 10 seconds, and they have. They're really clever. They're really quick. They get it. They look, they hear, they just picked it up. All their senses are there. They pick it up. And you've got those who need to have their book and everything in place. So this is where you learn that the language is a great tool to help create the space and welcome everyone.
Yeah.
And then you can basically shoot the first version of the lesson really direct and then say, okay, here's the assignment. And for the other ones that need a little bit more time, well, then you can add more words and we can just go around and be a little bit more detailed about things.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because I used to talk very fast. And I remember somebody saying, well, you have to talk slower because I did comedy and stuff. You have to talk slower, give people time to think about it. And I said, well, why can't they think faster? Why is it always the speaker that has to change? Why can't
Yeah,
the,
well, there's a lot of people, they've got a lot going on. You've got the
yeah.
people who are kind of tunnel vision
Mm,
and who basically their lives are simple in the sense they don't have big drama, no stresses, no traumas, and so they're kind of more present. And you've got those who are very strong empath.
right.
So, and I would be typically one of those when I'm in a classroom and I'm trying to do a presentation, I got someone tapping on the desk that actually crashes my train of thought. And the reason why it crashes my train of thought is because what I'm sharing is not coming from my head, it's coming from spirit.
Okay.
So instead of repeating what I'm hearing, I'm opening myself to catch thoughts and information to pass on so that their vibration interferes with my quiet space for that to come. And sometimes we experience things in life and we don't even notice it. We might go for a walk, we're looking around, our brain remembers everything. And then all of a sudden, while we're having a quiet moment, something will come back to us and it's going to finally connect, or a thought will come with that moment. And it's a lesson to share with the kids. But I can't do that if there's disruption,
Right. Okay.
right?
I hear that.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people for different reasons, their attention span where their ability to grasp is minimal. And you've got those who are born in a very special way. There's a way to deliver.
Mhm.
There's a time frame to deliver. For instance, if I did a presentation for the school, I'd be aware that the 5-year-old was not going to listen the way a
Oh,
12 and a 14-year-old would. So you kind of have to adapt to that. And the thing is that in a classroom, you've got that same thing. You've
yeah.
got those that and of course, you've got some kids who have a lot of worldly experience already. Some of them are walking encyclopedia and they know stuff. And, when you're, let's say, doing kindergarten grade 1 and you're going over the colors, well, some of these kindergartens, they're way way ahead and they're bored, right?
Yes.
So again, the thing of language is to be able to catch the attention, pass that on, and those who are quick is to just know that we're going to have a special language with them.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not going to use the same vocabulary as I would with those who are just new. You have, let's say, those who speak English and don't speak a whole lot of French. Well, I'm going to be using my words and I'm going to speak differently than I would with those who already know stuff I don't even know. You know, their parents are international folks. They have places in Europe. They got places in Africa. Their jobs. They take their kids. They've experienced a lot of things. So right there, it's a different language again to
Right.
address them. And it's important to acknowledge these differences because you don't want to hold anybody back because a bored child is, well, is going to think about something else.
Yeah. Well, I must admit the school system has changed a lot since I was a child. You know, there was just one way the teacher taught for everybody. Doesn't matter if you were head of the class or the middle of the class or the bottom. You know, if you were the bottom, you struggled, and there's no extra help at all. You know, but so it's nice to see that it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. It used to be a sink or swim thing for us.
Yeah.
That was the passing mark, and that was it.
Mhm.
So,
That's right. Just one more thing before we go, we're running out of time there before we
sure.
finish. Just get back to your show for a minute. When does your show come on and what's the station?
The station is 100.5 FM CFRO.
Okay, 100.5. I'm gonna mark that down. Okay, 100.5 CMFO.
Yeah, it's Vancouver, it's Blackfeather Vancouver Co-op Radio at 100.5 FM CFRO. It's on Mondays at 2:30, and I think sometimes at Saturdays at noon. You can
Okay,
also go to the website www.coopradio.org, and you can just click on whatever's playing at the moment, and you can listen to it.
okay.
I'm looking to eventually put all my shows on podcast and potentially on YouTube as well.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, mine always go on YouTube's, but you know, it's not.
Yeah, see, and what I notice is that your growth is much more rapid than mine, even though I've been doing this for 5 years, because you're using podcasts and YouTube, and that's a big deal in helping getting more attention because people are working and not everybody can tune in. So, and I would like to live longer life to the people that have crossed my path and so generously shared their their journeys and their stories.
Yeah.
Such a great gift.
Definitely. Well, we're going to end there, but just stay on camera for the second. So the audience, I just want to remind you, you've been listening to Christine Marie Blackfeather, and I'll give you the website for that you can check out her show, and hopefully you'll watch and give her some feedback. That's always wonderful. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching the show. Take care and peace out.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. This is going to air on this Friday. So once it
Okay.
is, I'll send you the link. Okay.
I'll put that on Facebook and on my page.
All right. Sounds good. So just remind me again. So it's was it clock radio?
Vancouver Co-op Radio.
Or co-op. I
Yeah.
was hearing clock.
There we go. And it's Blackfeather, Mondays 2:30.
Okay, great. Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. If you ever want to be back on, just please let me know.
Yeah, anytime. You've got my connection. So if you want to, just hit me up. We'll do this again.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, take care.
Enjoy
Bye.
the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
You as well. Thank you.